Over the last 48 hours, there has been a lot of news and discussion going on with gaming, not just around the main subject of today's video, talking about the death of DEI, as many corporate entities are listing DEI initiatives as a liability to the company rather than an asset. And that distinction is going to come up, and we're going to talk about that more in this video. But we are going to also touch on something that I wanted to talk about yesterday, but was just swamped with work, and it's the Game of the Year nominations. This has kicked off a firestorm of debate and a firestorm of victory fanfare from those of us who are pro Gamergate 2, who are about making games actually more diverse and more accessible and more and less about pandering tokenism, and that essentially is the debate. That is what's going on. But I like what Ramiz says here, saying Elden Ring wins Game of the Year again, mostly because he wants to see the meltdown with going on Twitter. What's important to note here is that people are immensely divided across the board regarding whether they should be DLC should be eligible for Game of the Year or it shouldn't. Our boy Thomas Mahler sounding off that he believes that the industry has changed and DLC should be eligible for Game of the Year awards, where Ryan McCaffrey is representing the team that is not for the expansions being included in Game of the Year awards. I don't think there's really any wrong answer, because the real true story behind all of this is we all know the Game Awards are marketing. They are just a form of additional media and content that doesn't necessarily serve that of the gamers, and that's okay. You can have those kind of events. We're going to be watching the Game Awards. We're going to be doing all that stuff here live over on Ginger Prime TV. If you guys aren't aware, that's where I stream, both on Twitch and here on YouTube. So if you guys want to be a part of that, I'd love it if you go ahead and check out that channel. You can also hit that subscribe button here if you haven't already, and I earn it. I know it's somewhere on the page. If you find it, sound off in the comments below, just like Gray Fox and KT Eden have done. So welcome in and welcome to the channel, everybody. We still got a lot to talk about. Let's name it. And it's namely that obviously with Game of the Year nominations, there are going to be snubs. And we've got Polygon reporting that one big snub was Dragon Age the Veilguard, which I think continues to highlight the points that we're going to be talking about with the overall pushback on this woke mind virus that continues to permeate within gaming. This is another round of victory, and it's clear to see who the players really are. I play a minor role in this entire discussion, but overall with legacy media, especially with Polygon, you can see that. Now, Learning the Law kind of highlights this, saying that gaming journalists are already coping with the fact that Dragon Age of the Veilguard is not a Game of the Year contender, with articles stating like Black Myth Wukong is the lowest rated game to get a Game Awards GOTY nomination, the GOTY. And then Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth sits at a score of 89 on Metacritic, which probably has Ryu Gangaku Studios wondering what the heck they actually need to do to get a nomination, while other high-profile titles like Silent Hill 2 Remake, Warhammer, and Helldivers 2, Persona 3 Reloaded, and even Dragon Age Veilguard were all more highly rated than Black Myth Wukong. And I highlight these stories because I think what they do is really reinforce what is truly going on. Now, it is reported that dozens of financial advisors warned corporate America that DEI initiatives are a liability, stating dozens of financial advisors warned corporate America that in the wake of Donald Trump being elected as the 47th president of the United States, that diversity, equity, and inclusion policies are now a liability. And the Orwellianness of this, and one of the reasons why I push back so hard against this idea constantly, is this is an Orwellian term. It isn't about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like, that is how it's sold. And so on the surface level, anybody who offers a critique on that system sounds like a horrible person. But that's not really how it is. It's like the Department of Truth and the Department of Love from 1984. Those weren't about truth and those weren't about love, but it's marketed as in such a way that gets kind of the middle person, somebody who's not necessarily engaged or paying attention, to be like, well, yeah, of course, like let's make the world a better place for everybody, because that's, I think, a natural human emotion and a way to kind of feel towards our fellow Americans or our fellow brothers and sisters if you're not American, if you're somewhere else in the world. So this goes on to even highlight more things about it. Now, the post goes into more detail, stating that this November, the American electorate overwhelmingly rejected the ideological takeover of political and civic life by narrow-minded identity politics, critical race theory, CRT, and diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, purpose to promote belonging and inclusion, but in reality sacrifice true diversity and equal opportunity by focusing in on the differences based off of skin color, sex, or religious status. It is now a liability for any institution to out adherence to DEI ideology. Recent Supreme Court decisions have cast serious doubts on the legality of DEI, which has led to a full-scale legal assault on DEI, according with the Wall Street Journal, and data underlying the push for DEI have been exposed as overstated at best, or worse, downright false. And even going on to say the downfall of DEI even actually extends to the college campuses, as well. As the New York Times Magazine recently reported, a 10-year investment of $250 million to promote and ingrain DEI has backfired so completely that the universities of Michigan's own data suggests that in striving to become more diverse and equitable, the school has also become less inclusive. But it gets even better, as BlackRock's CEO Larry Fink is currently panicking. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. It's not just this DEI stuff, but he's been, and BlackRock has been, a huge proponent with that, with ESG, getting these companies to follow suit and going down this rabbit hole. And it appears the reckoning has come. Now, what does this mean? Well, this is going to, of course, mean more layoffs, and I expect that we're going to hear some layoffs about BioWare coming soon. But the latest Sweet Baby Inc. game has now bit the dust with mass layoffs at Reflector, who are the makers of Unknown 9. So the Sweet Baby Inc. touch of death continues. This is a trend, and I think it's actually trending in the right direction. Now, a part of me is always going to be like, it sucks if you get laid off, because chances are a bunch of people who didn't make bad decisions are going to get caught up on this. And that is a fact of life that sucks no matter which way you look at it. That's one of the reasons why you'll constantly hear me promote the idea that you need to pay off your debts as quickly as possible. If you're employed, that should be your goal, living debt-free, because that will give you the leverage and the ability to fight back against any kind of messaging, any kind of corporateness, any kind of abuse that the system is going to try to leverage against you. Now, the beauty in all of this is still we are seeing the marketplace of ideas play out in real time. If you want woke and DEI infused games, well, honestly, then you should know what games those are and go and financially support them. What I am a big proponent of is educating the masses on what is going on in these games so that you can make the decision for you, whether this game is right for you or not. What we've seen this year, and why I am so impressed and so also in a way, bewildered by all of this, is that we haven't ever really seen gamers truly unite in a real boycott that actually instigates change. For the longest time, it's just consumer, just buy the game, consumer. And I still get a little bit of that. Like my boycott of Dragon Quest III 2D HD remake, because of what the developers themselves have said, is the hardest choice I've made. Now, the good news is Dragon Quest 1 and 2 remake shouldn't have any problems inserted into it, but also that even with all the Dragon Quest changes that have come out, they still actually have gender in the game. And that's a huge proponent. That's an exciting thing to see. And so when the game eventually goes on discount, I think that's when I'm going to finally be able to jump into that and feel really good about my minor boycott of this. Obviously a small blip, but being somebody who buys multiple copies of every Dragon Quest game that's ever come out, I think it is a significant change of my own personal behavior, but still one of the hardest ones that I've had. This year alone has been an interesting year because the games that I haven't really been interested in, I did get talked into by a friend on the Suicide Squad, which is my biggest regret of this year. When we talk about the game of the year, seeing Wukong up there, it fills me with so much joy. That game is so fun. I've really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see, and hopefully what this means is just a shakeup of the industry, and especially a shakeup of those who represent the legacy media too. I hope that we can kind of see everything kind of, in a way, reset and kind of get back into this middle ground, rejecting the extremes, because those extremes are they don't really truly represent us. They don't really represent gaming. They don't really truly speak to me personally. Maybe they speak to you, and no judgment if they do one way or the other. Now, as a final story and something to kind of leave you on before we jump into our message of hope, namely is that today it's been rumored that Sony is actually in talks to acquire Kakawada, and hopefully I'm not butchering the name too bad. They own FromSoftware, a lot of anime, manga business. And this is interesting because I have seen, not that it's everybody, mind you, but I've seen a couple of takes from people who are very anti-acquisition being very pro-acquisition in this case. Now, my personal view has always been and will maintain, it is a part of business. It is a part of life. I'm not going to stress about the things that I can't control, whether it's a good move or a bad move. Again, marketplace of ideas is going to win out in the long run. If Sony goes and acquires them and gets, FromSoft, makes them a first party studio, if they continue to publish the games on PC, I think that's going to be a perfectly fine thing. I don't know. And maybe you guys know more. I've only been just recently stepping into Elden Ring for the first time. Yeah, I don't know if that kind of thing would say, hey, it's on PlayStation and nowhere else. We've seen that happen this year alone with Final Fantasy 16. That did not work out well for Square Enix. They're a third-party studio, so it's a little bit different. First-party seems like that would be what people would hope for, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be in Sony's best interest if they do decide to go through this acquisition. Let me know your thoughts on it, whether you're pro or con, and no wrong answers. I'm always generally curious about what you guys have to say about anything we talk about here as well. Let's wrap up with our message of hope. This is, I think, the most important part of these videos. As a constant reminder, I want you to be curious about how your body works. I want you to be curious about it because I do believe, and from my own personal experiences, that your physical health really has a huge impact on your mental health. Now, I'm going to always encourage you guys, especially if you're having these really dark thoughts, and I know that when these videos go a little bit wider than my normal audience that likes to watch them, we do run into people who are thinking about harming themselves, and I always want to try and talk you off that cliff. I guarantee you your friends want to hear your story and your struggle rather than attend your funeral, so please take care of yourself, whether that's with therapy, reaching out to a friend, take some kind of action today and save your life because you're worth living for. But that mental health, like the things that could be causing you mental health problems could literally be about your physical world, whether it's exercise, but most likely I'd like to focus it a little bit on food. If you guys aren't aware, food can have a huge impact. In fact, if you think of food as a drug, you can start to realize that your body and DNA are going to respond differently to certain types of food. And if you're constantly like miserable and struggling, I want you to be curious about that. I want you to get radically curious about what is actually might having an impact and get scientific on it. Start logging what food you eat and how you feel about these things, because that could also be a huge help. Obviously, exercise is important. I always like to use vitamin D, especially during the winter months, because I do get seasonal depression disorder, and that in and of itself sucks. And I hope none of you ever have to have that, but it's something I just kind of deal with, and vitamin D and exercise go a long way in helping doing that. The other thing beyond food, and the reason why I want to talk about food is because food is something we feed our bodies, but we also need to be feeding our minds with really good things. And this could be good books, good movies, good conversations, good friends. But I want to leave you guys with a few really good quotes, something for you to kind of think on and ponder on as you wait maybe for another video from me. It's up to you. No pressure to watch my stuff. But anyway, I'm going to start with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. He says, "The measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and of controversy." And this is true. This rings really true. When it's easy to go along with the crowd. When it has no cost to you, it's easy to be, kind of pessimistic or even just not even going one way or the other. What really stands out is that when there's a real cost, when standing up for what is right actually has a cost and impact on you financially or, socially, I think that's really where things get measured the most. And so I would encourage you guys, don't worry about losing subscribers if you're content creators. Don't worry about these things. Telling people the truth and being authentic and having integrity is far more important than any subscriber count that you can try and live up to, or any kind of social media clout is the same kind of translation, especially in this world where a lot of people want to become content creators. I get it. I want to talk to you guys about that. Now let's go to Norman Mailer, who writes, masculinity is not something given to you, but something you gain. And you gain it by winning small battles with honor. I like that he says small battles. This is something you'll hear me talk over and over again. Make the heroic choice when it's easy, when it's small, because then you can develop the discipline so that when called upon to make the bigger choices, back to Martin Luther King, it becomes easy. It becomes a part of your character. Don't wait for greatness to be thrust at your doorstep. Be great in every little moment, every small thing that you do. And then we've got a mark of a real man is how he treats a woman. Respect is everything. This is unknown, but this is importantly true, because when we talk about men, when we have our men's, virtual men's group, that's what kind of this part is of the video. I think it's important to differentiate ourselves from what we see also online, in which that it's about owning and dominating and, having so many women in your, in your book or whatever the term is. I want you to go and out there and respect women, treat them amazingly well. And that doesn't mean they're going to smile their favors upon you. That doesn't mean they're going to treat you the same. But just be the person that you want to be, and don't worry about it. Let the world and let everything sort itself out. Don't worry and don't have anxiety over this stuff. Now, the final quote comes from Nelson Mandela. He says, the greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. Nobody listening to these words, unless you're Jesus Christ himself, is perfect. Because of that, we all fall. We all are going to make mistakes. We're all going to not live up to even our own goals. Give yourself a little bit of grace, but get back up. Pick yourself up, pull yourself up, find a support group, find men and friends in your life that can really continue to try and encourage you to be the best that you can be. Never give up on yourself, and never give into any kind of dark thoughts that you might be experiencing. If you ever need to reach out, always, and you don't feel comfortable about the comments, my DMs are open, the Discord and all the links for everything that you might want to engage with or not are all in the description, and the choice is up to you. I love you, I pray for you, God bless you, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys today about the things that I care a lot about. And until next time, everybody, take care.